Our guest today is none other than Ken Harris. He is a distinguished attorney, author, and entrepreneur who has made a significant impact in our community through his legal expertise, advocacy, and commitment to justice. Let me tell you a little more about his incredible journey. As the founder of Ken Harris and Associates, he has spent over 3 decades fighting for clients and workers' compensation, civil litigation, and Social Security cases, ensuring justice for those in need. He has argued high-profile cases before the North Carolina Court of Appeals, solidifying his reputation as a leading legal mind in the state. Beyond the courtroom, he is also a published author known for his thought-provoking novel, Dark Trades, which explores an alternative history where the South won the Civil War, showcasing his depth as a storyteller and a historian. I can't wait to dive deeper into this journey and hear about the lessons and resilience that have shaped his career. Thank you so much for being here, Attorney Ken Harris. It's a pleasure to have you. It's an honor to have you. Welcome.
Well, certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here and excited and see what we got to share with the community. So thank you for having me.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So let's get into it.
Yes,
I'm excited about, I think that a lot of people have known you as the attorney of Charlotte, but there's some small little, I don't know if they're secrets, but unknown facts about you that I found to be just wonderful. And one of them is that you partnered with the Babyface.
I did. It's been a long journey for me. I was born in Houston, Texas, and ended up coming to Fayetteville as a military brat. Fort Bragg, my dad was a soldier. And then went to Chapel Hill undergrad and law school. But my focus has always been kind of, just feeling my way through the world and kind of seeing what happens next. And I really didn't have any ambition in college to represent or work with celebrities or athletes. I just wanted to get through school and find my way. In fact, I didn't even plan to go to law school until, the very last minute in undergrad, and
Wow.
And I certainly didn't expect to be representing athletes or celebrities during my process in law school. So it's been an interesting journey, and I've had an opportunity to work with Babyface and his wife Tracy when they were married, Tracy Edmonds, and we had a sports management firm together. And
Wow.
me and my partner
That
LG,
is
who was
awesome.
here somewhere. We had a business with Babyface for a couple of years. So, got to do that and kind of see his genius and Tracy's genius. This is back when they were making movies, and I think they had a movie called Baps or something at one point, and they had an artist that they had here in Charlotte, but we had a sports management firm together. So he was just one of the many celebrities I've been blessed to have a relationship with.
That is wonderful. I have to tell you that at 10 years old, he was my crush. The poster was on the wall. As soon as I get home from work, you can't get better than
goodness.
that.
As soon as I get home from work.
That's right. That's every girl's dream.
They don't talk like that now, but back then that was it.
No. They're not. They're definitely not making your water, your baby bubbles, and nothing like that. So that was just a time,
that was a great time for music, wasn't it? It was really good time. Yeah.
So that's some known facts. We have some others, but one of the things I admire most about you is your ability to push through challenges. And can you talk about a specific moment in your life that you feel like was the key role to you entering law school?
I think there were two. Pledging Kappa,
Okay.
I think, was the foundation of me having a certain level of stick-to-itiveness and perseverance. When you pledge into a fraternity, we say if they pledge you right, you have to overcome some bitter obstacles that you just never imagined that you would have to overcome. And that journey, the pledge process, instilled in me sort of a foundation of hardness and that allowed me to encounter difficulties down the road, but not panic. Law school is the same way. Law school really challenges you. And being in a non-minority college and law school,
Yes.
where you have to overcome the natural educational challenges, all while understanding that you don't have that comprehensive support system around you, that was also foundational for me.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
While we're on that, I'd like to talk about, do you consider yourself first generation in your family?
No. Well, in a way, my mother went to Prairie View,
Okay.
and my dad did a few years at North Carolina Central. I was first generation in terms of getting an advanced degree,
Okay.
and but my mom and dad were very keen on education and making sure that you advanced as far as you could go. They just didn't have the opportunity to go any further
Right.
because of the environment. But yeah, so in that aspect, yeah, I am first generational in terms of getting an advanced degree.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so, if you had some advice as far as navigating college, navigating career, what would you give to a second generation or a first generation student?
I think the first thing you have to do is have some foundation with God and make sure that you have something there that can give you some strength and encouragement even when things get difficult, such that you're not relying on other people.
Right.
I think that's the first thing. The second thing is make sure that you have short-term goals initially, meaning you can't get to grad school if you don't get past undergrad.
Right.
You can't finish undergrad if you don't make good grades in your classes. You can't go out and be a Kappa every day of the week on campus and not focus on your grades and your classes and the things that are essential for you getting there. So it's easy to get distracted when you're in college, even in high school,
Right.
and you don't take that next fundamental step. So the key to me is to focus on each step in the process instead of saying, hey, look, I want to be a lawyer.
Right.
And, so I'm going to just work on being no, you got to,
Be
make good
present.
grades in high school and then make good grades in
Right.
undergrad. And so each next step is very, very critical.
And what I love about what you've stated is that organizations, while in college, are pivotal. You have to connect. You have to be a part of your environment, and those organizations can help you to have a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
a sense of pride,
Yeah.
even when you are the minority on
Yeah.
on the college campus. So
Yeah.
that's amazing
Yeah.
because we know what the stats say,
Yeah.
and you're among the percentage that actually attended PWI and successfully graduated from a PWI, and a really a ranked high one too. So so that's something to be proud of. And so the one thing that I want to highlight with you too is I want to know what drives you to keep going, even when things get tough. So, like, say for instance, you've been successful, you've had successes. A lot of times, people see successes, and when they experience failures, they don't understand and they don't know how to get back up from those failures. How do you see that?
Okay, so I'm going to be transparent here and talk about what drove me when I was younger versus what drives me now.
Right.
When I was younger, what drove me, to be real with it, was money and hype.
Okay.
And that's a trap that is easy to fall into. You start thinking that the goal is to be known. The goal is to have people talk about you. It's a little bit different now because we've got so much social media now. There are people who actually can make a living doing that.
Right. Oh,
But you
wow.
couldn't do that back when I was coming up. Then money. And you start thinking that the goal is to accumulate as much as you can. But in addition to that, show people that you've
Right.
accumulated things. And so for a large portion of my early career, that's what I thought. And when you don't come from wealth, there's something inside of you that, drives your ego. But I can tell you right now, I know for a fact those things are worthless
Yes.
when you start getting into, that key word I always use, sustainability. Money and hype, they don't mean a thing.
That's right.
And it's interesting that our community has to start doing a little U-turn and focusing more on things that are substance. I'll tell you a good example is Kendrick Lamar had a Super Bowl
Yes.
performance. Now, if you watch that Super Bowl performance and you were focused on the hype of it,
Right.
then you'll miss all the substance of it.
Right.
And you had to take a moment and analyze exactly what he was saying and doing to understand that it wasn't about hype. It was about politics. It was
Right.
about substance. It was about substance. It was about community.
Yes.
When I was younger, I would have looked at that performance one way.
Right.
Today, now I'm old enough and smart enough to look at things like that another way.
Yes. I love it because what you're saying is this. We have a society that's running after the bag. And what happens when your money is not it's not any good. You can't use it. You can't spend it because we have a system that is not built for you. So you can get all of the money, you can get all of the names, the accolades, but yet you can't go to the store and spend your money because they don't allow you to come
Yeah.
in.
It's interesting because when you run after the bag, typically you're going to be running by yourself.
Wow. Yes.
And other communities understand that if you collectively run after the bag, you have
Yes.
sustainability.
Yes.
So you run after it by yourself, you get out there and you get exposed. When those challenges come, you don't have the reinforcement of your community to fight those challenges off. Other communities may not be running as fast as you're running as an individual, but they're running collectively. So when
Yes.
those challenges come, they're insulated.
Right.
That's something that we really have to start learning in the African American community.
I love that. And so that takes me to my next question. So with that, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for positive change in our community? We talked about the social capital, and we talked about money. We talked about how collectively we move. What are you seeing from that happened, in your youth, and what's happening now, and what needs to change?
We have to start focusing on economy and opportunity. And we just haven't gotten there yet as a community. We don't understand that you have to strategize as a community in order to be effective economically.
Right.
And if you don't get together, if you don't pool your resources, if you don't develop a common vision, you don't implement small steps to get to the bigger game, then you lose out. And we're losing badly
Wow.
as an African American community. And I'm worried because if the election had turned out one way, then we have someone in the White House who might have compensated for some of the failures of the African American community. Still not a good dynamic,
Right.
but the president would have compensated for some of the challenges that we have and maybe even inspired us to do better. But that safety net is gone.
It's gone.
And so now we're in a situation where if we don't get together and start doing what's necessary, we are at a massive risk of falling even further behind. And I'm scared because it's starting to look like that's exactly what's getting ready to happen.
Right. And so when we think about where we are, and my area is heavy in advocacy for education. Education is the great equalizer for us. is the one that shows up in the room and sounds off the alarm that, hey, this isn't making sense. Okay. So right now with so many so many things happening as far as potential cuts, when we think about the economic mobility here in Charlotte specifically, one of the things I've loved about Charlotte is, like we said, it's been the best kept secret. It's been prosperous. I've seen our community thrive. When we talk about cuts to federal funds when it comes to education, we also have to look at how that will affect the workforce. So from your perspective, when we talk about things like energy, new things that are coming down the pipeline, how can we better equip our community to be able to benefit from those things?
We have to move from a dependent community to an active and aggressive community.
Yes.
Dependency doesn't work in today's world because now they've removed the resources that we were dependent on.
Right.
And so now the question becomes, do we have the fortitude as a community to start being active and aggressive in pursuing those things that are available to us? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know whether we are or not. One area that I focused on is in the energy world. And I'm the CEO of one of the largest certified minority energy companies in the country. And props
Woo!
to
Yes.
my man Ricky Hart and Leonard Graham, who's a part of that, and Gina Roy, who's our
Awesome.
president. But I'm scared because when I look at the energy world and I see the growth of power electricity, data centers who use power and electricity, natural gas, the proliferation of hydrogen, these are things we don't discuss in our community.
No.
We don't discuss how great it would be to work at Duke Energy
Yes.
and have a career there, or how great it would be to work at Chevron or Air Products. These are not foundational ambitions for our youth in our community.
Right.
It looked like we were going to gather some momentum on those things when we started talking about STEM curriculums
Yes.
and support for STEM programs. It just has not gained traction. So what's going to happen here if we don't wake up is this energy renaissance in the United States that is taking place now.
Right.
We're going to miss out entirely.
Right.
And you just have to think of all the wealth that is being generated now in the energy trades that we're not participating in. But worse, we're not preparing our children
Right.
to explore and participate educationally or professionally. So I really am worried that we're going to miss out as a community on those opportunities.
I agree, because energy is definitely not the topic in some of the circles that I'm in, but STEM is. And so I think that we have a challenge of making sure that our community stays in those spaces and places and gets the information that they need in order to run with it. But before we get into anything else, we're on a really a good space. I want to touch bases on this beautiful book, Dark Trades, because it really hits on a lot of what we're seeing right now unfolding as far as the systems that are in place. I love the way the character Harris talks about or strategizes how he's going to change and be, and to revolutionize his plight in society. And so I want you to give us some feedback on this book and how you see some things playing out right now.
Yeah, the first issue is that the book is based on the premise, what if the South had won the Civil War?
Yes.
And
Oof.
it's interesting because we came very close to that dynamic. Like,
Yes.
this wasn't a lopsided war.
Right.
A few battles go a different way, the South wins. So the first thing is, how would that look now for the African American community? Would we still be slaves? Would we still have fortitude to challenge slavery, etc.? So the year is 2018 in the book, but the South won the Civil War. and slavery still exists. And the book is about one slave's journey, having still been caught in that dynamic in 2018, and how he navigates to manage it. But the thing that a lot of people talk about when they mention the book is just the reality of living as a slave day to day.
Yes.
The magnificent pressure and pain and degradation and the mental challenge of somehow going through your daily activities and steps, but understanding you don't control a thing about your fate or your life. So a lot of people relate to that in terms of Harrison's journey. The other thing that a lot of people talk about is that we're fortunate that that didn't happen.
Right.
And so what do you do when you find yourself in a situation where you're a blessed community? How do you react to that? And have we reacted in a way that shows some appreciation that it did not develop this way?
Right.
Are we really taking advantage of the opportunity that we find ourselves in, because it certainly could have ended up a different way?
Right. You know, I'm sitting here and I'm like, what kind of space are you in? You know, to say, you know what, I'm going back. You know, like that requires genius. You know, because what we know is that slavery wasn't just focused in the South; it was everywhere. United States capitalized off of that free labor, and so for you to sit and say, you know what, I want to create a piece of literature that's really going to capture this man's journey. Where was your headspace?
I think more just what can we do to better our community's perspective? Like, how can we get to a point where we're really thinking about where we are versus where we should be? And I think one good starting point is figuring out where we could have been,
Right.
and then being grateful that we're not there, and then leveraging that dynamic so that we say we're going to do everything we can now to take advantage of the fortunate position that we find ourselves in. Now, if you're going to ask me whether that's where the community is, I'm going to say no.
Right.
I don't think we reflect on what our ancestors went through in slavery. I don't think we reflect on what our ancestors went through during the civil rights era.
Right.
I think we miss that. That should be incorporated into our thinking every single day, and that should govern how we navigate the fortunate opportunities that we have now.
You know what I love about this book too is that it tells the story. I know growing up, a lot of people don't want to hear about slavery, and they don't want to be attached to enslaved people. It's almost, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of our youth don't know it, and people just don't talk about it, because we're trying to arrive. You know, we're trying to get there. And so I think what you've done, and what, you know, any parent or any educator or anybody in general who shares the story of our ancestors, they give our students, they give our people a space and a place to understand, okay, this is the reason why I'm doing this, and this is the reason why it's important. And, you know, we may never arrive, but we're going to get there. You know, I'm preparing. One of the things that I've seen is that our community does not understand wealth. You know, they don't see wealth, and not just for me, but for the generations to come. So I want to talk to you about that. When we look at information, when we look at knowledge, when we look at dark trades, how does that transition to wealth?
I think that information is important. Planning and strategy is almost equally important. And I think we have a challenge sometimes at saying, well, I want to get here, but I'm not necessarily willing to take the time to lay out the steps that are necessary to get there.
Right.
That takes time. You know, you have to almost inhale to start strategizing and figuring out, you know, exactly what it takes to get to where you want to be, whether it's a business or whether it relates to your education. Just taking that foundational step of figuring out what the next steps are, I think, is very important. If you take those next steps properly and build the proper foundation, it will lead you somewhere.
That's right.
It may not be wealth. It may be some other type of success.
Yes.
I do know this, so if you don't build that foundation, you're not going to get to any of that.
Right.
So I think the first thing is, like I said earlier, to really focus on those small steps that get you somewhere. Have a strategic plan and then take those steps, and that'll lead you to somewhere important.
And I love that, because what I think that a lot of people need to understand, because this society right now, the way that it's running with AI and everything else, that instantaneous gratification
Yeah.
of success, when you haven't built the foundation, you just got lucky, is crazy.
I get AI generated documents from, business people from time to time. You can tell that it's an AI generated
Like,
document.
you don't talk like that. Like, a thousand, thus, and no.
I'm like, what did you learn? I mean, you didn't
Right.
learn what was needed to generate
Right.
that information. So the next time you encounter a conversation, you're not able to reference the underlying material.
Right. It's going to
And have a conversation. It catches up with you. So that's what I'm saying. We really need to start taking the time to build our community up and focus on those foundational steps. But with energy in particular, I just don't think we're getting there. And we've got to have some urgency.
That's right.
This is happening. This is going down.
Right.
You pull up CNN on your computer, and you can see something is happening every day.
Every day. So with the energy piece, if I was a person in STEM with a degree or with the skills required, where would you suggest I go to find what I need in order to benefit or learn?
There are organizations like Blacks in Energy. That is one of the great organizations where you can contact them and gather information about the different opportunities. But you can also contact Duke Energy, find someone who works at Duke Energy or Dominion Energy or Piedmont Natural Gas. These companies generally have programs, I hope they still have them, where you can get involved and kind of learn your way through the energy trades. You can contact a company like RDAF, our company. We'd be glad to mentor and discuss. Chevron, Shell, all these companies have programs that we don't typically tap into.
Right. And I think with these programs, as long as, and I'm going to say this because, it's weird now, as long as they're not funneled under the cloud of DEI, I believe that they'll still be there.
Yeah.
But I think that these programs give everyone the opportunity. The harsh part is what I'm hearing from is that we don't know about them.
And they're right there for us. They're sitting right there, as close as going on the internet and doing a search and finding who the executives are in Charlotte,
Right.
who work for a company like Honeywell, or Steel Fab, or like I said before, Duke Energy, and then having the initiative to reach out. Now, I've got a 1 out of 10 rule. Now, you might be out there, you might be a young person in high school or college, and you say, I want to get into the energy trades, and I'm going to contact, 4 or 5 people and see whether or not anybody is interested. Now, I'm saying you can contact 10 people. You might not get but one response, but that one response is critical.
Okay.
As long as you hear from somebody,
That's right.
develop a relationship and start your journey.
That's wonderful because a lot of times, people shut down after hearing no. So to me, those are characters of resilience.
Yeah.
When you can push past the no until you get your yes.
1 out of 10 is good.
Oh, yeah.
And so you just, as long as you can get 1 or 2 people to take interest, and then you use that relationship, leverage that, and move into the opportunity.
Right. Okay, so before we wrap up, I have a few fun, quick questions for you. So, what is your favorite local spot in Charlotte?
My favorite local spot in Charlotte? There is a place in South Park called Genya,
Okay.
which is Black owned. Virginia is a remarkable restaurant. It's right there at South Park Mall. And I mean, it's ramen. But it is it's like a fanciful restaurant. You go
Okay.
there, you get what you want to eat and drink, but you just feel good.
It's a
You
nice
feel like you're
vibe.
somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, nice little vibe, nice little music, very professionally done. So yeah, I would say my favorite place to go to right now is Virginia. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so, what's one book that changed your perspective?
Oh, Invisible Man. That's easy.
Wow.
Um,
That's
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And that was part of the inspiration for this book. You know, how
Okay.
do you survive that loneliness and oppression
Mm.
and still be functional and thoughtful
Yes.
in American society? So Ralph Ellison is
The go-to.
the gold standard.
Yes.
You know, and I
Yes.
even ask people if they could, I'm being greedy when I say, do you see any of Invisible Man when you read Dark Trades? And some people do. And it's just about how do you keep your head in the right space when you're oppressed
Right.
and lonely? And
And that is so. That's to me. That's huge, especially for Black males. You know, that's a whole nother topic in itself. But I love to hear you say that. You know, because I think sometimes they're conditioned to be quiet.
yeah,
They're conditioned to just deal with it.
yeah,
You know, deal with the invisibility, deal with the emotions, deal with the trauma, deal with it, and not show any response because that would be weak.
well, I know we're wrapping up here, but I also want to say something about the woman in the book, Megan, because
Right.
a lot of people ask me about Megan and her journey. And at the beginning of the book, she's also a slave in the same complex as Harrison. She lives in a unit by herself, but she has a master who comes and engages in some nefarious activity with her, just because he's her master. And she has to survive that and continue to navigate and continue to move forward day in and day out. So it's just an interesting issue in terms of how slavery affects
Right.
Harrison and how it also affects Megan.
Right.
And the fact that the two of them see each other and they're attracted to each other, but they can't ever get together because they're slaves.
Right.
And so, yeah, no, I think you're right. You know, the book talks about how it affects the man and how it affects the
The
woman.
woman. Right. So, best advice you've ever received?
From Magic Johnson. And I worked with Magic for about 25 years. Be professional regardless of the situation and circumstance. Never let your guard down in a professional setting.
That's right.
And I've learned that from him. And I talked to my good friend Jay Hill. He knows Magic always starts his meetings out a certain way so that they can always achieve a certain end result. And he's unwavering about professionalism. And so I've learned to incorporate that into my day-to-day business activities.
I love that because a lot of times people meet and they never get anything done. You know, it's all talk, and then they meet again.
It's
So
hard.
that's
Yeah.
important.
It's hard to stay at that level, but if you do that, like you may not win every time,
Right.
but you win some of the time. I can
Right.
guarantee you that. So yeah, I learned that from him, and try to incorporate that into everything that I do.
That's wonderful. Okay, so what's one word you use to describe resilience? This is Voices of Resilience, where we highlight those who have gone over and above. So for you, you're over and above. How would you describe resilience?
The one word would be perseverance. And the thing about perseverance is it's not a glamorous concept. Like there's no applause because
Right.
you persevere.
Right.
There's no TV camera. Nobody's going to give you cake and ice cream and confetti.
A cookie.
It's just the quiet resilience in terms of, the challenges that you face day to day. And I think that's what I've learned over the years, that persevering is better than, a big time one-off where everybody gives you accolades.
Right.
You have to, it's that steady stream, and just continue to push, and you'll get there eventually.
And it's personal. It's so personal. I think a lot of times, like I said before, society, we are caught up in the social media spin, that we forget that this is a journey, and we only have this one life, and we gotta navigate this bad boy to
Yep.
our liking, not to someone else's. And
Exactly.
so that's wonderful. This has been such a powerful conversation. Attorney Ken Harris, thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom with us today. Where can listeners connect with you or support you?
Well, the first thing I'd encourage them to do is go get that book on Amazon.com, Dark Trades, and go check that out. And then they can always contact me at my law firm here in Charlotte. So most people around here know how to get in touch with me at the law firm.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank you for turning in to another episode of Voices of Resilience. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep building resilience.